An early progress report for Nick Caserio, head coach Lovie Smith, and offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton. What the hell is going on with Justin Britt? Plus some questions from listeners. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610 in the Loop. Download the Odyssey app. You can hear everything that we do. We have players on consistently. We're in the locker room after every game. Today, Roy Lopez joined the show. Last week, it was Jerry Hughes. And you can also follow my YouTube channel. Subscribe if you haven't. It's a new space, actually just a week old today. Enjoying being in this space. It's obviously a learning process. Pep Hamilton said that it's a process to figure out who to hand the ball off to. It's a process to get this YouTube channel as good as possible. But I promise you, it's credible content from someone that's very close to the team, very close to the organization. And I do this and I take great pride in it. And I would love for you to ride along with me. I'm sure the art will be better. We'll look back at this like 3 years from now at the first shows and we'll kind of laugh at it. But the content is what it is. And I very much appreciate you riding with me. Let's just jump right into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's talk about the Nick Caserio very early evaluation. Let's go back to when Nick Caserio was first hired. What was the perception about Nick Caserio? The perception was, this is just trying to copy the Patriots. You heard Cal McNair at the press conference say, we do not consider ourselves Patriot South. That was not a coincidence. And I think a year plus into Nick Caserio's tenure, I would say there's not a lot of Patriot tendencies. I mean, there's philosophies that maybe we give the Patriots too much credit for. But I think a lot of the stuff that you see, even with the Patriots, is stuff that goes on with every football team. We haven't seen Patriot coaches getting hired. There's been differing philosophies. So I haven't seen them really just copy the Patriots. I also think Nick Caserio has done a good job, and this has nothing to do with the bottom line, or maybe it does in this situation. He's done a good job interacting with the fans, being a little bit more transparent than in the past, and having a little bit of fun. Hell, at his opening, Lovie Smith's opening press conference, Nick Caserio, because one of the things that he did that annoyed me the most was those Silicon Valley references. Nobody gets that. Nobody gives a damn about your Silicon Valley references, Google, all that stuff. Nick Caserio was aware of me poking fun of it and it being one of my pet peeves. He actually mentioned it. It was in his opening statement when he introduced Lovie Smith as head coach.
Good morning and welcome. Try to bring a little levity in the air. I know everybody's disappointed. I don't have a vest on, so I'll save those for the season. So, and no Silicon Valley references either, Landry. So you don't have to worry about that. So, but
yeah, so he's opened up to the community, but in the big scheme of things, how you're going to judge Nick Caserio is by how he builds a roster. Year one was just a bunch of veterans. It was veterans. It was stopgaps. It was the worst roster in the NFL. I don't even think it was close. Even Jacksonville, who had teams that had the worst record, their rosters were much more appealing than what the Texans had. Year two, we got some veterans, and there's a youth movement. There were 10 rookies on the 53. You had the draft class last year that was better than we'd expected. Hell, just the fact we're talking about Davis Mills, a third-round pick as a potential starter, I think it works wonders. But 1 week into the season, if we're just judging in this bubble for this season, and that's the early progress, I would say Nick Caserio so far, the things that he looks smart on, I think he looks smart with the draft. Kenyon Green's eventually going to be a starter. Derek Stingley, so far so good. He looked great. Jalen Petrie looks great, and you got a bunch of other young guys there. So the rookie so far, he looks good, and that's the most important thing. The thing that there were early signs of, and I don't even know if you can consider this an overreaction, was that the running back position was going to be an issue. And depth could be a problem. Now, Dameon Pierce comes out. Next week, we give the progress reports for Nick Caserio. We'll say so far, so good. It's a week-to-week league, and there are week-to-week reactions. But the fact that Rex Burkhead is still your running back that's getting the most touches, and the fact that Justin Britt is your starting center right now, Those are things that could have easily been improved or fixed, and they were ignored. And up to this point, the case can be made that because they were ignored, you lost a football game. If you had a running back option better than Rex Burkhead, and you had a center that was playing better than Justin Britt, then a case can be made that we'd be talking about the 1-0 Texans right now. And the reason why this rubs people the wrong way, and the reason why this frustrates me, is it has a real familiar feel to it when you have two guys who clearly could maybe be valuable pieces on certain football teams, but they're getting to do way too much, and they might be getting opportunities ahead of guys, even on this roster, that perform better than them. I think it's common sense when it comes to Pierce. Pierce is a better runner than Rex Burkhead. I think Rex Burkhead would agree with that. I think Lovie Smith would agree with that. And we'll hear Lovie Smith in a second on that. But it just has that familiar Bill O'Brien.
Tough, smart, dependable guys.
It has this, say it again, B.O.B.
Tough, smart, dependable guys.
It has a tough, smart, dependable feel to it. The Justin Britt, Rex Burkhead situation. Here was B.O.B. Back in the day, and I promise I won't play his voice too much, but it's relevant here because I think this is a mistake.
Tough, smart, dependable guys. What is that?
What is that, sir?
Guys that are physically tough, mentally tough. It's not an easy game to play, especially at this level. Guys that are smart, that understand the preparation, that understand what it means to watch film, communicate with your teammates, communicate with your coaches, and guys that are dependable, guys that are fair, are dependable in the locker room. They're going to be there every day. They're going to be out at practice every day. I think as we continue to build it, those are going to be very important characteristics to us.
That has nothing to do. You notice he didn't say guys that are athletic, guys that are fast, guys that can catch, guys that can block. It's all that over romanticized stuff. And I'm not saying this is the case, but that's what it feels like when you watch Justin Britt play last Sunday and you watch Rex Burkhead, who again has a place in the NFL. But in this situation, it has a real, like the legacy of jersey number 28, it has a real Alfred Blue feel. Like there's a pipeline. Blue wore 28. Now you got old Rex Burkhead out there wearing 28. That's just kind of the feel it has. The question is, though, is this Caserio's call? Like with Rex Burkhead getting all of these carries and getting more touches than Dameon Pierce, is Nick Caserio in charge of that? My co-host thinks so. John Lopez, he thinks so. I don't know. I think Rex Burkhead might just have some of those qualities that football coaches value, and maybe they overthink when it comes game time, and they just want to get the safe thing instead of going through the growing pains. That's something Pep Hamilton's going to have to answer, and the man he's going to have to answer to is Lovie Smith. But as far as the Caserio very early evaluation, the roster looks fine, but there are two glaring holes that it could have easily been fixed that you could maybe make a case cost you a football game, and that doesn't sit well because it just seems like the same old, like B.O.B., tough, smart, dependable type of thing. But so far, so good for Caserio. Just those two things. Lovie Smith, early 2022 evaluation. I would say Lovie's been okay. His defense played good enough to win. They allowed 232 yards and 3 points to the Indianapolis Colts 3 quarters into the game. And if the offense had even been able to go 3 and out and punt instead of turning the ball over inside the 20 in a 14-point game in the fourth quarter, you're talking about a win. And you're talking about a defense that personnel-wise should probably be outmanned by the Indianapolis Colts, given where they're at compared to where the Texans are at. So I think the defense has been fine with Lovie Smith. The decision-making, I think that's been fine too. I actually feel better about Lovie Smith's decision-making after week 1 than a lot of people do. I don't like this notion that you just go for it just to go for it. I think he showed a feel for the game. His team was outmanned. The offense wasn't doing a damn thing. Why should he trust them to go 4th and 3? Defense was gassed. The Colts had figured out something. It seemed like they'd figured out wherever number 51 is, we want to throw the ball there. And the Colts had figured that out. So I actually feel pretty good about Lovie Smith in this situation. And I also feel good that he feels this way.
Tough
reps our starting tailback got in some of those situations. I wish he had gotten more, and we're going to work to get him more of those opportunities. But a young back, it's some of those things. I wouldn't say that just being a primary ball carrier is holding him back. But those are just some things that we're going to work on to make sure that situation doesn't happen again.
This is interesting because Lovie Smith's making it clear he feels like you do. He wants Dameon Pierce out there. He thinks Dameon Pierce needs more carries. My question is, whose call is that? Who is he calling out? Because if you just go back and listen to Lovie Smith's press conference, and that's another thing that we do on Sports Radio 610, I'm a podium critic. I listen to everything that every player says, every coach says, and a lot of the time I'm right there when they say it. And we're getting to ask them questions each day. So that's why this YouTube channel is valuable. We're there every day. We're there every day. We're covering this team every day. And we have the relationships and whatnot. But if you listen to Lovie Smith this week, just think about this. He was very accountable. For better or worse, he was accountable. And he would explain everything to you. Outside of the questions that he couldn't answer, like play calling and stuff like that, he was very accountable. When asked about the decision to punt, he explained it. You might not have liked the explanation, but he explained it. Told you everything. Made it clear it was his call. He said that. There were a couple of other instances. He's asked a question. He answers it. Might not like it, but he explained it. It's on me. This is what we need to do. I need to do this. If you ask a dumb question, he's going to hold your dumb question accountable. That's what Lovie Smith does. But when he's talking about Dameon Pierce, it seems like he's insinuating that it wasn't his call. Now, a lot of times it's up to the offense. The offensive coordinator gets to pick who goes in. Sometimes it's the position coach. But it seems to me like Lovie Smith is not the one that decided that Rex Burkhead was going to be out there that much. Have you heard him talk about Dameon Pierce? Talks about him being a starting tailback, talks about how awesome he is, how great he's been, all that. And then he says he needs to be out there. So my question is, whose decision is that? Is that a Caserio thing? I don't think so. Is it a Pep Hamilton thing? I would lean that way. And furthermore, if you look at the dynamic between defensive coaches and offensive coaches, a lot of times offensive coaches, they don't have like a mindset. When there's disagreements with offensive coaches, they don't have a mindset where I want the defense to play this way or I want this guy to be out there. They just want you to stop the other team. They don't care. Just stop the other team. Whether it's like the greatest show on turf with the Rams, whether it's Peyton Manning, just stop the other team. That's all they want. They don't have any like real requests. It's very simple. Stop the other team. Defensive coaches, though, especially when they might have limitations, personnel limitations. You heard Lovie Smith say, we're going to run the ball. We're going to do this, 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 this. He said that before we even knew who was going to be on the roster or anything like that. That's what he said. He's saying now, I want Dameon Pierce to be the running back. How does that dynamic work with him and Pep Hamilton? I'm not saying we're going to have some sort of like Buddy Ryan situation where Buddy Ryan and Ditka are going at it or punching guys on the sidelines or anything like that. But think about it. You got your defensive coach flat out saying there's no excuse for Dameon Pierce not getting enough carries, and he needs to get those carries. Who's he calling out? Who needs to know this? Is this something he just wants to put out there to separate himself from? I don't know. But if you listen to Lovie Smith, it's very interesting. But as far as the progress report for Lovie Smith, I think Lovie's been fine. To me, I can't. I mean, it's in the A or B range so far with Lovie Smith. He's saying what we all think with Dameon Pierce. He made a decision that I personally liked. I was on the record at Landry Locker on Twitter. I liked it. Defense was fine. There's limitations. There's definitely limitations. We've gone over those. But those guys played their asses off. They played good enough to win. You don't give the other opposing offense a 20-yard field with a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, we're talking about a W. We're talking about a 1-0 football team. So far, so good for Lovie Smith. Pep Hamilton. I think Pep Hamilton called a better game early on than he got credit for. Davis Mills missed a couple of throws. The low one to Conley, the throw to Cooks that should have been a touchdown. First play of the second half, which was a hell of a dial-up. But I do wonder, and Pep spoke today, really didn't say much. I mean, it's coaches speak with Pep. I do wonder, is he the one that wants Rex Burkhead out there? Because if so, my question's why? And what exactly are we watching? Other than that, I think we got to be very fair to Pep Hamilton, even more so than Lovie Smith when it comes to evaluation. And I think in situations like this, it's very easy to question play calls, effectiveness, etc. I don't like how disorganized they were in overtime. The fact that he decided that was his best play on third down, Rex Burkhead in a heavy set, and the fact that he didn't have a play ready after 2nd and 1 and had to kill a time, and they had to kill a timeout. It wasn't ready to go. I don't like that. But I do think we do need to be a little bit fair to Pep Hamilton. At least I do. I won't tell you what to do. I'll just speak for myself. The personnel on this team, there's question marks all over the place. The interior offensive line. Hell, we don't even know how good the tackles are at this point. Well, Tunsil had a hell of a game. He did a pretty good job outside of maybe a really, really costly mistake. But there were some good moments for Laramie Tunsil. The running backs, we don't know if Dameon Pierce can carry the full load. We know Rex Burkhead can't, but maybe that's one of his better options. It's definitely one of his 2 best options, at least we think. And then the receivers after Brandon Cooks, that's been a concern for a while. And the tight ends, maybe he can get them a little bit more involved. But there's valid questions about, how selective you have to be when you put Brevin Jordan on the field, and Farrell Brown hasn't been consistent, and O.J. Howard's been released from 2 spots. So there's question marks there, although so far so good there. So when we evaluate Pep Hamilton, I do think you've got to kind of look at the personnel, because if you expect them to have like a world-class offense, that's not going to happen. Unless if that happens, if the Texans have an elite offense, then Pep Hamilton's only going to be here for a year, because someone's going to hire him to be their head coach because he's going to look like a genius. But there aren't too many coaches in football that could make this an elite offense with all the question marks. And that's more of a representation of what was inherited and how much work was to be done and what the assets were that would have made it possible to change that. So I think Pep's done a good job, but I am intrigued, and I'm very intrigued this time next week when we talk about this, what it's going to look like with the run game, what it's going to look like with how he uses the tight ends, and what it looks like when they block, which I don't necessarily hold that against him. So Pep Hamilton's been all right. I'll give Pep Hamilton a solid B. If I had to give grades, I'd give Caserio a B-, maybe C+, just because I think Rex Burkhead and Justin Britt, I think those things could have been fixed. And I don't think it would have been too hard to fix them, and they cost you a football game. Lovie, I would give an A-, B area. And Pep, I would give B-, C range, just because overtime was bad. Overtime was bad. The first 3 quarters, and Davis Mills didn't really help him out in certain situations. So I'll go Caserio, C, Lovie, A-, Pep Hamilton, right there in that B-. I'll give him a B-. So that would be the early progress reports with those guys. Here was Pep Hamilton at his press conference, and I think this is very, very interesting, and this is something that I think deserves our attention, and we might get clarity of it or on it tomorrow when Lovie Smith does speak. This was Pep Hamilton. He goes up to the podium. He doesn't answer any questions, and Pep Hamilton has this to say to start off his media availability.
Before we start, Coach is going to update you on Justin Britt tomorrow, so I won't feel questions about Britt.
You said no questions about Britt?
Yeah, thank you.
What is going on there? That's interesting. Coach is going to update you on Britt, so I won't answer any questions. None. I want to be respectful of Justin Britt here, because when someone says they have personal issues, I don't really want to speculate too much what those personal issues are, because they could be anything, and these guys are human beings. And Justin Britt seems like a good dude, and everybody goes through something in their life, like at some point, and I don't want to speculate. But that seems like something might be, and I'm saying I'm not going to speculate. I might speculate. I don't really. Could there be a retirement coming from Justin Britt? Is it possible? Is Justin Britt? I don't know. We'll know. I mean, we'll know tomorrow, but you're talking about a guy who didn't look good on Sunday. He was pissed in the locker room. If you haven't heard, I was in the locker. He was pissed. I know they like him, but we're going to find out tomorrow. I just wonder if maybe we've seen the last of Justin Britt in a Texans uniform, or if something serious is going on. I hope that he figures that out as well, because as I said earlier, Justin Britt, good dude. Just not very good at football right now. Like, not very good at football right now at all. Actually, really bad at football. And maybe he just doesn't think that he has it anymore. Maybe that's what we're going to hear tomorrow. I'm not sure. But something's definitely going on. I'm pulling up the questions from the 610 Loopholes Facebook page. It's a fun Facebook page. No politics, anything like that. We don't get into that crap. We just simply go back and forth. We do it in a respectful manner, healthy disagreements, etc. And I have some questions there, but I am wondering what's up with Justin Britt. Arnold Ramirez, the questions were: post your biggest Texans thoughts, comments, concerns, reasons for optimism, or questions here. Arnold Ramirez said, biggest concern is the altitude getting to Pierce. In the game that they decide to give him more carries and he gets gassed, then it affects how they use him the rest of the season. Look, there's a lot of smart people in that building. If they're not able to use altitude as a variable in any way, shape, or form, whether it's how Pierce looks when they hand him the ball or how Kenyon Green looks when they either start him or don't, then you don't have a chance in hell at ever being successful as an organization, because that would be dumb. To think that they're just going to ignore the altitude, and if Pierce gets tired, they're all of a sudden going to say next week in Chicago, oh, well, he was tired in Denver when we gave him 15, 20 carries, so now we can't do it. I think that's kind of insulting, but shout out to Arnold. Clint Jenkins says, they really do have a chance. My big concern is consistency. If they can control the defense, keeping leads and keeping their foot on the gas for putting more points on the board, they have a shot. Give Pierce more carries and more touches. The defense needs to put some pressure on Wilson so that he starts making costly mistakes that the defense can take advantage of. Easier said than done. Matt Ryan got away a couple of times the other day. I'm a little bit concerned about what Russell Wilson can do if Matt Ryan was able to move the chains with his legs a couple of times. Maybe you have to put a spy out there. I don't know, but that does concern me. Philip Henderson says, biggest concern is being too conservative. Unleash Mills. Let him call his own audibles and drive the ship. If he stinks, we can pick a quarterback early in the draft. The early quarterback talk. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't know how they're handling audibles. I would think that Davis Mills has some sort of freedom, but if he's going to be free, he's got to throw the deep ball a hell of a lot better, and he can't miss some of the throws that he missed the other day. Jason White, I didn't think they had a chance against Indy, so yes, I give them a chance against Denver. This week is a battle of the coaches who made poor decisions at the end of their games this past week. So who will be less dumb in Denver? Will Russ get to cook? Will Pierce get more carries? Or will it be more in the same with Burkhead? Can Britt get his head out of his you-know-what and block someone? Or will he let Denver's front run right by him? Can Nico get open enough to get the ball his way? Or is he going to be just another guy? Jason, very well thought out questions there and observations. Greatly appreciated by you. I don't know if Britt's going to play. Like, is Britt the type of guy that can miss 2 practices and then just go out there and play? Like, is the gap that much bigger between him and Questenberry? I don't know. Can Nico get open enough? Guess is as good as mine there. Johnny Gonzalez, and by the way, Denver's got some good corners in Ronald Darby and Pat Surtain Jr. Johnny Gonzalez says, my biggest concern is Britt and Burkhead. Neither seem to belong out there to me. If you listen to the beginning of this, you're preaching to the choir. Hell, he might be a loophole Sports Radio 610 listener. Jeff Locks, Loucks, says we need a winning mentality, not a play to not to lose. We should have won last week. I wouldn't blame Lovie's decision on the loss. I would blame the fourth quarter on the loss, but I get what you're saying, and you are not alone. Hippolito says they got a chance in Denver with Justin Simmons being rolled out. That's huge, by the way. Second straight week, the Texans have gotten a break where an all-pro is not going to be on the field on the opposing defense. No Darius Leonard last week. Shaq Leonard, excuse me. No Darius Leonard, Shaq Leonard, excuse me. See, it's a bad habit. And no Justin Simmons, 2-time all-pro for the Broncos. He's out. But the run game and Justin Britt need an upgrade ASAP. Team needs to run the RB1 that clearly showed himself in the preseason. Appreciate all the questions. 610 Loopholes Facebook page. I'm with you. I think the clear opinions, like if we had to just power rank the 3 most common opinions with Texans fans at this point, I would say most people feel Lovie Smith made the wrong decision. Most people feel that way. I don't. But most people feel that way. Opinion number 2, Dameon Pierce needs to get the ball more than Rex Burkhead. Lovie Smith agrees with you. That's probably, I think, the most important guy. And opinion 3, Justin Britt just looks kind of lost out there. There's something else going on, obviously. Pep Hamilton teased that, so we'll figure that out. Once we hear it, like if there's a Justin Britt retirement, I'll react to it. That's the thing I'm looking most forward to on this YouTube thing. Right now, we're a week into it, and I'm just getting to react. Tomorrow, the Lone Star rankings are going to come out, top 10 college football teams in the state of Texas. I'll have college football and Texas post-game shows. We'll have Texans post-game shows as well, and we'll have daily content throughout. But I'm looking forward to reacting to breaking news. Maybe a Justin Britt announcement will be the first opportunity tomorrow, but I promise I'll keep posting. This isn't going to be just like a quick thing, so subscribe. Shout out to you. We'll be on the air tomorrow at 10 a.m. Little Football Friday. We'll hear from Lovie Smith. We'll give you the latest on Justin Britt. We'll look ahead to the game. And then we got you covered at Sports Radio 610, starting with the pregame at noon with Sean and Seth taking you up to the call. And then Sean and Clint got the postgame. So fire up that Odyssey app at Landry Locker. Listen to me on Sports Radio 610 from 10 to 2. Very much appreciate it. We're a week in. Can't say thank you enough for the people that have supported. And I'm going to keep putting out this content, and hopefully this space becomes something that we can all be proud of. So I'll talk to you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Should I say go Texans like Mark Vandermeer? The answer is no. Talk to y'all later.